Here's my good friend Jamie Sell. Jamie's got a few words to say. Please, everyone, round of applause for the great Jamie Sell.
Oh, geez. Can you guys hear me? I'm not from the Cleveland area. I'm over from Youngstown. My son's case came out of Trumbull County. It's along the same lines as everything that we've been hearing here. He was 18 years old, and just about the time that a young man named Brandon Sample came up missing, who was a correction officer's son, I had just gotten done advocating for the JJC in our area, and they walked out almost every single employee after a story made it to the front page of the paper that I had written complaining about abuse and lack of education in the Juvenile Justice Center. Not long after that, when this young man came up missing, my son became the main target or suspect. There was no evidence against him, and the evidence that they claimed that they had after I launched my own investigation after my son was convicted, I discovered was either manufactured, it was misrepresented, or the evidence was just destroyed or hidden. So he was convicted of a Pizza Joe's robbery, and both of the girls that were robbed said it was a mixed race male. My son was white. The very next day after the robbery, they put in the paper that they were looking for a white male. Not one of the clerks said it was a white male. Then I discover years later that the gun that the robber was holding was a larger gun. The gun that they confiscated and said belonged to me is a tiny purse pistol that fits inside the palm of your hand. There's no way it was the same gun. They took DNA from it anyway, and it didn't even match my son as a major or minor contributor. Then when it comes to the murder, there was no gun evidence, no bullet, no nothing. And then I find out that in the cell site data, they got rid of the GPS information and they only used where the cell towers were located, and they deceived the jury. But even though they deceived the jury, the BCI experts still said in cross-examination that my son was never located near the body or the car that was dumped. So the prosecutor gets up and tells the jury, well, just because he wasn't located in those pings doesn't mean he couldn't have done it in between the pings. Well, that's not evidence. Anybody could have done it in between. Like, what? Then I find out that a video that would have given light to the time that the murder actually happened was not given to our attorneys until the first day of trial. They never had time to investigate it. I investigated it later, found out that the murder happened hours earlier, and that there's no way my son could have even had anything to do with it. And it happened in a city that was a half hour away from where we lived. My son didn't drive, he didn't have a car. Anyhow, while he's been in the prison, he faced retaliation because they thought that he killed the son of a correction officer from OSP. So they tried to kill my son 3 different times and they were unsuccessful. He's a black belt martial artist and he has a lot of conviction. And he did go to school to be a paralegal while he's been in prison. He's been grieving everything that happened in Lucasville. Then they set him up in a dogfight against a dangerous man from Arizona that was the second rose-holding leader of the Mexican mafia in the United States. That man ended up dying in a 12-second fight. He was very unwell. I have his autopsy report. He was twice legal limit drunk and also had 3 different anticholinergics that were in toxic levels in his blood. He couldn't withstand a fight. He couldn't live through something like that. Anyhow, to make a long story short, they used that to pin another conviction on my son. He took a plea bargain after a CEO of a record company helped us pay for the attorney for my son. He took a 10-year plea bargain, and the prosecutor in that case got on video and said that my son was defending himself. He also said that you could place the responsibility of everything that happened afterwards at the feet of the administration of the prison. After that, I wrote letters to Columbus and I said, how are you being equitable to the taxpayers? when you are torturing my son using the same tactics that you've already been sued for in the past and had to pay millions out, and you're doing the same exact things to this day. Well, then they ran with pep in their step to my son's cell and said, okay, we'll go ahead and transfer you, but you can't go to OSP, so you got to go out of state. And he said, fine. They had him in a cell that was a glass house with no ventilation. It was so hot in there that you could wash your clothes in the sink and they dry stiff in a half hour. They were doing everything they could to make him kill himself because they couldn't kill him with all their other tactics. He was in that cell for months and months. People normally don't make it that long. But he's very disciplined. Anyhow, he's now in the most secure federal prison in the country at the AdMax in Colorado. But he's being treated very well there, so there is some consolation in that. However, our fight still continues. There's a book about my son's case. It's called Wrong Ride Home. A lady named Donna Waters wrote it. It's a very good book. I encourage everybody to get this. It describes pretty much a lot of the things from before the trial, during the trial, and our fight afterwards. And if you want to be up to date on how they play some of the dirty tricks that they do, it's all in writing. It also can give you an idea of how to write your own book about your own family member's case, because it gives you, like an outline that you can work with so that you can do your own project the same way. Obviously, it's not the end. There will be another book because my son is still locked up. But anyhow, my son's name is Austin T. Burke. He's from Trumbull County, Ohio, the same area where Casey Anthony's father was a sheriff's deputy, and the same area that a coroner named Humphrey Germania, who was in another national documentary for trying to frame Delbert Ward in Huntsville, New York, was the coroner in my son's case, and he did similar things in my son's case. There's too many things to describe what they did in this case because it's numerous. I would be here for hours, but you can read the book, Wrong Ride Home by Donna Waters. Thank you.